Okay, so last video I had just finished with the passenger trunk floor, and I was gonna go ahead and get on to taking care of the driver's side trunk floor. Well, I already got the original pulled out. Very similar story to the passenger side. One of the reasons I wanted to replace this is you can see this sort of crumpled section on the back here, which is more evidence of the accident that it had been in. Other than that, it was fairly solid, but I wanted to go ahead and just replace the whole thing. New one sitting right there. Haven't prepped it yet, but excuse me. The frame rails were just as clean and rust free on the inside as the passenger side was. I've already cleaned up the tops of the rails, cleaned up the mating surface on the quarter and the outer wheelhouse. I also wire wheeled this area real good. I may do it some more because there was a lot of scale rust in this drop off on the quarter panel. So I want to make sure that I don't leave something in there that could be a problem later. But you might remember on the passenger side, there was only like 5 spot welds that held the trunk floor to the wheelhouse. On this side, there was about 13 or 14. So when these cars were put together in the factory, you'd have one guy on this side, one guy on the other side, just spot welding away, and there wasn't any real rhyme or reason as to how many spot welds they would put in there and where. So they kind of just went crazy. So the other side only had 4 or 5 welds. This one was kind of overdone almost. But oddly enough, some of these welds didn't take. About these 6 or 7 in the middle here. When I went to go drill those out, I drilled through one of them, and the trunk floor actually kind of separated, and I realized that it looked like there had been a spot weld there, but it didn't actually weld the metal together. That's another reason why I want to go ahead and replace these panels, because you never know where you have factory spot welds that actually didn't take, and they're not really doing anything, so you're not really getting any structural rigidity there. That had actually been the case also on the original trunk support. Like these spot welds on the back of the frame rail, none of them took. So that was just sitting there. It was only being held in by the quarter panel. So plan is to get this in. Hopefully at least get it fitted today, if not welded in. It's getting kind of late. Then I'll work on rebuilding these flanges that need it, welding up this hole. I'll probably just put like a small little piece of patch metal underneath and just weld this together and like smooth that out. And then I'm gonna need a fabricated piece to go here that I'll bend upward to match this trunk channel and go from there. I did acquire some extra trunk channel pieces. This is the driver's side. So this is a piece that is just the trunk channel. This is made to fit a coupe or convertible. So you can see that it's much wider. The trunk channel is much wider on the coupes and convertibles compared to the fastback. So I'm just gonna cut this somewhere in here. Not really sure where yet. And I'll just weld this, cut this or something like that, and weld this together. You don't really need to buy these extra pieces. I'm not a professional, so if I can make it a little bit less work for myself, I'll do it, just because I'm not a metal wizard like some of these guys you see out there. So I have everything I need to put this thing back together. I just need to get this taken care of. All right, time to get this fitted. So as was the case with the passenger side rather, fitment leaves a little bit to be desired. Again, I'll probably have to reshape this up here. It doesn't really want to slide forward enough, so I'm probably gonna have to, where it gets sandwiched in between the transition pan and the wheelhouse here, I'll have to open that up a little bit to help it to sit down in there like the way it should. Probably gonna have to modify this area. You see this little guy sticking out where they sort of folded this together. I'll have to check the lip on this to see how tall it is. It may also be shorter than the original, so I may have to do something with my with my plug weld holes or holes. This is all right. This will get pulled up close together. I'll use some clamps on this. This area is going to have to get modified also, just like the other side. I'll have to make some relief cuts in here, sharpen these angles a bit, maybe bend them a little bit, move the bends inward a little bit on both sides so that this will sit nice and flat. But other than that, it's not bad. Could be worse. And this isn't really something that you're going to see, so I can mess with this and it'll be all right. But I think this, like I mentioned before, that this was sitting much higher than it was supposed to be. I think once I freed it from the old trunk support or trunk floor rather, I think it's already kind of where it needs to be. I'll have to double check it in relation to that side. But what I want when this is all done is for those flanges, those bottom flanges, the one I'm gonna have to rebuild on this side, but to be even with this, with what will be the trunk floor. So that's the end product that I need to have. So yeah, well, this isn't sitting down exactly where it needs to be, so I'll probably get something that I'll be able to weld to here. And if I have any plug weld holes that are down too low, I'll just be able to put a piece of copper behind that, weld up the hole. That way I can, because you put copper back there, it's not gonna, the welding, it's not gonna stick to that when you weld it. So you'll have a flat surface against which you can sort of make a plug weld and fill any holes if there's just empty space behind them. So that's what I'll do there. Not bad, but it's gonna take a little work. Okay, that's much better. Yeah, I reshaped this area right here. The bend was down here. I moved it up here a little bit. There's sort of a little bulge in the middle right there. I still may try to hammer that down. Maybe I'll do that after I've welded it in. It's sitting more or less where it needs to up here. It's sitting down over here by the wheelhouse the way it should. This is good. This will get clamped together in this area. And yeah, I may have to hammer these back down a little bit, but this is definitely better than it was. So I made a relief cut in here, another one right here, and I just hammered these a little bit sharper. Yeah, just gave myself a little bit of extra room on that side. So it's looking good. Yeah, this one, I think the flange on this side isn't as long as, it isn't as tall as the stock one, but it is much better than the passenger side was. So this one I'll be fine with my plug weld holes on this one. I'll just reuse the original spot weld holes, just clamp that together, weld that together. So next step is to go ahead and trace under here with a marker so that I get the outline of the frame rail, so that I can drill my plug weld holes for the top of the frame rail. All right, I'm happy with that. So yeah, drill my plug weld holes. And a tip for those of you, like if you're going to be doing this yourself, when you're drilling these plug weld holes, the best way to drill through steel is to slow speed, high pressure. So put a lot of pressure on the metal if you can with your drill, and just run that drill at a slow speed. That'll keep the heat down. Because I don't use any cutting oil when I do this, because I don't want to contaminate these weld areas and have to go through the trouble of cleaning them up. So you just run your drill at a slower speed, keep the pressure on the metal, and it'll go through it like butter. So yep, it's been working well for me so far. So this is pretty much where I want it. I've deburred all these holes and buried the metal in places where it's going to be plug welds. Also under here, where it's going to meet the trunk drop off, or the trunk support rather. So yeah. Also over here where I need my plug weld holes. where it meets the wheelhouse. So this is pretty much ready to go in. I'm going to go ahead and start running down some sheet metal screws to hold it in place, and clamping it elsewhere. Okay, so this is ready. It's getting late in the day, so I'm going to weld it tomorrow. I'll weld it, grind it, paint over the welds and everything like that. But yeah, this is ready to go in. Once this is welded, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I done with that side. I'm not going to weld the quarter panel to the drop off just yet. I'm going to leave that loose so that I can do what I need to do to get these quarter panel extensions and the tail panel and the trunk channels all fitted. I still need to replace these flanges. These ones on the sides, the vertical ones. I've reassessed these. They're kind of Swiss cheesed from drilling out the old spot welds in there, but overall they're still nice and thick. They're not overly rusted or anything like that. So I'm going to keep these. I have to rebuild this one down here. This one, I don't know. I may make a decision on this one because there does seem to be a lot of material missing there. This one, of course, definitely needs to get fabricated. That's going to be a big order to get this taken care of. This one, thankfully, came out intact. I was able to cut what I needed out of it, and I was left with enough adequate surfaces to go ahead and get the new channel in there and all that stuff. This one is definitely going to have to be replaced. There's not much left of this. This metal in this area is really thin. This area was pretty rusty, but same goes for this vertical side. This is still nice and thick. I'm satisfied with this. So rather than make more work for myself, I'm going to go ahead and run with that. Not much of this. I may just make a small little metal patch to fill this area here since there was a lot missing. There's another case of, they just go crazy with the spot welder sometimes. So it's not it's not predictable how many spot welds you're going to have to cut out to make this right. But yeah, that's all I have left to do. I did get the trunk lid installed. And the gaps are pretty good. It's original trunk lid, original quarters, so like these lines match up just about perfectly. I do still need to knock it over a little bit this way just to really make it sit where it should, but this will allow me to make sure that I get the tail panel welded on correctly, in addition to the quarter panel extension pieces and everything that's associated with that. So this is the original trunk lid. It's I'm not going to be using it when I finish this car for obvious reasons. I don't know what happened here. This is all busted out. In addition to this damage over here, it's also rusty right around here, this area. But I went ahead and I'm going to use this to fit everything up, because in spite of the other issues it has, this trunk lid is still square. It's still in good shape for setting the gaps and making sure everything fits. And it had, because of this ugly blue paint job, it had witness marks. So I was able to put it where it needed to be without much hassle. So that'll allow me to make sure that the tail panel is going together the way it should. So I'll weld that, grind it down, paint over it. Then I'll take care of those flanges, and then it's time to bust out the tail panel and the extension pieces and the other trunk corners I have, and put this all back together.